Hey there again, everyone. Well, I just made a podcast a little while ago about, it was mostly about Jehovah's Witnesses and religion and comparing that desperation to convince others that you're correct. And I touched upon a short section of that. I touched upon these kind of 5 struggles that we all face, and I wanted to expand on that separate from the discussion about beliefs, because this is something that actually crosses all boundaries, whether it's political, religious, cultural. These are the 5 things that I consider to be not only the most important things to us for our survival and well-being, but also the most easily manipulated parts of us when other people want to take advantage. And those things are our well-beings, whether it be mental, physical, spiritual, financial, and social. And I know there are more, and feel free to please leave a comment below if you can, think of any categories that don't fit into one of these. But for example, the first 2, mental and physical, those are the well-known. You want to have a mental well-being, you want to have the capacity for knowledge and to be able to make a fire, to function, to live in this world. That's first and foremost. Because with your mental acuity, it allows you to take care of yourself physically, because you're aware of what you can and can't eat, these types of things, how to build a shelter. So there's the mental, then there's the physical. The physical are the basics that we're told back in school that you need: food, water, and shelter. What's often omitted from that discussion is that food, water, and shelter don't allow you to thrive. They allow you to live, but only for a period of time. If you're constantly craving connection and community, if your mental state is not what it needs to be, you will die sooner. It's known that stress is one of the biggest killers. So if you're constantly anxious, even if you have all the food and shelter you need and water, it's not going to do you as much good as if you're able to balance all 5 of these things, especially the mental and physical. And even if you're facing some serious adversity, being able to look at it differently. The mental alchemy is a huge key, and I could go into depth on that, but I'm not going to for this video. So we have the mental and the physical covered. What about the spiritual? And I know a lot of you might consider yourself atheists or secularists, if you will. So you would say, why would you consider spiritual to be a struggle? Well, let me say, honestly, as a human being that's 47 years old, that's grown up with no religion as a kid, it was later on that I really started expanding on these. I was very, quote, spiritual when I was a teenager. I read a lot of books about Buddhism and mysticism, and that continued into my 30s and even today. However, I came to the conclusion that there is no one-size-fits-all system. You're not going to find the solution through religion. You're not going to find it through Buddhism, or even if you're one of those guys who likes to brag that you meditate all the time, which I found kind of ironic for really what it is, and meditation, the benefit to the individual, that it became kind of a trend, if you will. But that just shows the desire for people to connect to that spiritual. And when I say spiritual, I don't want to scare people off, because here's the thing. A lot of people, even if you're a full-blown atheist, you derive that conclusion by doing your own research. And hopefully, if you've done all your research on religion, perhaps you were a believer, or perhaps not. If you're a full-blown atheist and you're dedicated to saying there is no God, there is nothing beyond humans, let's just say you're a traditional atheist, as many Christians would consider, a person who believes in no God, that there's no real meaning to life or purpose, that basically we're just here and we make the most of it. That can become kind of a nihilistic viewpoint, but it can also be the launching pad for something greater. So for those who have struggled, or for those who are atheists, I would imagine at one time or another you struggled with the question of, am I wrong? The only way to get to confidence about what you do is to be wrong and to wonder if you're wrong. It's just like becoming a master, a plumber or a carpenter or any trade. You don't get there by just saying, I know I'm right from the beginning. That's not how it works. So in other words, you learned to be an atheist. by having questions and saying, this doesn't feel right. Now, on the flip side of that coin, you have many people who used to be non-believers and who became, let's say, born-again Christians. And I promise this is a very short example, but the spirituality side has to be talked about. A lot of folks who become born-again Christians are even more involved and more sure of themselves than any Christian who was born into it, because they feel like they've changed their mind and they're into something new, and therefore it must be the right thing. Just like many people who used to be religious and became atheists feel just as strongly. The Cosmic Skeptic or any of these atheist channels on YouTube, which have mellowed out over the years, instead of just being a bunch of, unkempt fellows screaming about how wrong Christians are and arguing, it's actually people talking about these issues, saying, how do we resolve the differences? But the point I'm getting at here, beyond all of it, if you are religious and then you become an atheist, there will be somebody trying to sell you atheist literature. If you're an atheist and you become religious, there will be somebody trying to sell you, religious literature. And I don't mean literally literature, nor do I mean literally sell you. I mean sell you on ideas, convince you that they are right. Because this spiritual fulfillment is so important to us that if we don't address it, then we're doing ourselves a disservice. We can be well-fed, we can be mentally stable, but until we address this issue of spirituality, then, and that includes death, mortality, once we become confident in the fact that we just don't know, then I think we're on top of our game as much as we can be. Because admitting we don't know seems to be one of the hardest things for people to do. So far we've covered mental, physical, and spiritual. And the last two I have were social and financial. Rather, financial and social. And these are so tied together. This cultural belief that you're only worth what you make, this has been perpetuated through my generation, growing up in the 80s and watching this commercialization of all my favorite cartoons and movies and TV shows into action figures, and or my favorite toys being converted into cartoons, vice versa. It was always about money. And my hope was that once the internet was in its infancy in the mid-90s and I had Windows 95 and I thought this is the greatest thing ever, it may take 5 minutes for a web page to load, but damn it, I can get to other places. I can share ideas. I can actually comment and share with other people that are like-minded. Boy, was I let down when I realized that just because you have access to social connections doesn't mean that these people are going to act like reasonable social beings. And this, I think, came to a head in the mid-2010s. 2010 to 2015, and even beyond, was kind of the age of, the internet starting to get dark, as far as, people saying, what the hell is going on here? Why do people talk to each other this way? But it was only in the last 5 years, like during the end of the Trump era and into the last few years, that I think people are finally starting to see that you can have social connections without having to have an online presence where you have thousands of followers. Like, that's losing its steam. And I think it's important to address that, because when I say social, often people, as I said, it's tied into financial, which I'll get to. But the social aspect is, we have social credit in our own minds. It doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter what you believe. It doesn't matter what you don't believe. It doesn't matter how much money you have or don't have. It doesn't matter what culture you are, what religion you are, what color you are, what persuasion or gender or any of that shit. None of that matters when it comes down to the thing we all share, which is that we want to be respected by our peers. Now, I'm sure there are one or two people out there who say, I don't care what other people think about me. And you know what? You're full of shit. I love you, but you're full of shit. You care what somebody thinks about you. Somebody. Anytime we comment to somebody and they leave something scathing or call us out or call us lesser people, it bothers us. Anybody who even is online right now watching this is involved in the internet enough to know what I'm talking about. And yeah, there's one or two guys who moved out to the woods, didn't care about what anybody thought. That's great. But I believe that they're not being fulfilled in the full social aspect of being human. This dare I say, this connection we have of love, of understanding, which sounds very cheesy, but really it does come down to those feelings of belonging and connection. So the social aspect, it's very real. And the struggle is real, especially to have that connection. And when many people don't get that, they lash out. And this is how we get these young men who are angry at the world, who start like the MGTOW movement, or men going their own way, or what a lot of people will call the black pill. This is kind of giving up and saying, well, women don't like me, therefore I'm going to actively resist cultural norms, if you want to call them that. I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I'm saying that when we're turned away, when we're dismissed, when we're, ignored, it makes us bitter as people. And so we need that social connection, which brings me to the final one, financial. And this is a very controversial one, because financial value in this world, I feel like I'm finally vindicated. Even when I was younger, I would see these millionaires on TV, and there were no documentaries about their lives, about how they really feel. There were no interviews with these people, or there were no internet celebrities. There were people who got famous either because they invented something, started a business, or they were an actor or actress, whatever it might be, they did something. It wasn't until the age of internet fame, which back in the 2010s, when Facebook celebrities became a thing that existed, where people got famous just for posting things or just happening to get noticed. You could buy likes and followers, you could promote with hashtags later on. There were so many things you could do to get noticed. And what we found was that the financial incentive for this was so great that people were willing to lie to each other, fake videos, do fake pranks, or even real pranks on people who they should never have done that kind of shit to. People have done some really dumb things in order to get internet fame, and once they get it, you would think, well, this person, they've got millions of dollars now. They could retire and do whatever they want. They could start a movement to help other people, or, but no. They pretend to start charities, right? You've got guys like Jake Paul, right, who, multi-millionaire, who not only makes bullshit charities, but actually scams his own fans by selling them some sort of, cryptocurrency that went nowhere. He knew it was going to go nowhere. And yet his people still follow him. And this is very important. People want to trust in someone. And even if that person lies to them, they're going to believe that person's leading them the right direction if that person seems to have money. The thing that I think a lot of young people don't realize is that many do, but because a person is promising you money, you should be very cautious. First off, what's their angle? Nobody just says, here, have some free money. It's very uncommon. Nor is somebody going to let you in on their secrets to success. I haven't seen so much like bullshit financial guru garbage in my life. A couple years ago, or like last year, I made a video talking about NFTs, and I had a couple people that were really bothered by the fact that I said they're just a trend. Because in the short view, when you see something like this come up and everybody's interested, everybody wants to get rich quick. And the question, when I step back and ask myself, is who's losing for some people to get rich quick, and who's really getting the richest? And I dare say it's the same with Bitcoin in my mind. The fluctuations have been caused by market volatility, caused by the elephants, or the whales. Sorry, elephants. I'm not in that community or that culture. I believe in earning the money that you have, doing something for it, feeling like you're valuable in this world because of not what you have, but what you do and who you are. And that sounds kind of arrogant, because I have a lot of growing up to do. I have a lot of learning to do to be the best person that I want to be in my life. I'm still lacking a lot of the characteristics that I wish I had, but damn it, I'm working on it every day. And none of those characteristics have anything to do with being wealthy. Do I dream of somebody handing me $1 million and saying, invest this? Yeah, of course. But 20 years ago, I would have probably squandered it away. today, if I had, say, $1 million in my hand, tax-free, I would turn right around and buy some land that I want up north. We've been looking at some amazing places for around $700,000. Then I have a few $100,000 to keep myself, fed and bills paid up to where I could, have the shop. I want to build a shop or have a shop on site to where I could start building furniture, right, and doing tiny houses on my own. That requires capital, growth. That's where finance is important. My wife and I have tried to save up money. It's very hard. We have a home, but we still owe most of the money on it, and we could sell it and get another place, but then we're farther away from the city. In other words, what I'm getting at is that we're all struggling in that financial department, but it's really not about how much you have, and we all know this. There was one period of time where I was making pretty good money, at least maybe 10 years ago. I was making like $40 an hour cash. And my wife, as a server, was making really good money too, and we were both working full-time and bringing home enough money to where we felt comfortable. Saved a little bit up, and then some emergency happened. We had to spend like thousands of bucks, and it went back to zero. But we expected it, because that's what it's all about. I mean, the point is, having money isn't about saying, look at the money I have. It's about feeling secure so you can go about the other things in your life. Because having money, I'm not talking wealth, I'm saying just having $500 for an emergency can help all four of the other aspects. It can help you mentally to not worry. It can help you physically, being able to sleep at night and eat because you're not stressed. It can help you socially because you can get around and still do the normal things you need to do. And the other one's spiritual. That may sound silly, but having money helps us to feel more connected to the world around us and not so resented by the world. Because when we're suffering financially, we feel like we're being wronged. I have a lot of sympathy for the people who work 2 jobs and still can't make ends meet. And I've done a lot of thinking about this. This is mostly in the South. Like, for example, where I live, minimum wage is 15 something an hour. So you work a full-time job, that should be $1,200 before taxes. They say that a week, they should say you need like 30% of your income for your rent, and the rent here is ridiculous. And I think about these people who are working 2 jobs, can barely pay their rent. It's sad, because people are really struggling just to make it by. And when they can't make their financial needs, they can't deal with their social needs, their spiritual needs, mental or physical. And this is why I'm slightly leaning more towards a socialist mentality, but I don't believe in socialism. It's a huge difference, a big stretch. I also believe in communal or communist mentality, but I don't believe in communism. And what I mean by that is, I think that if people are left to our own devices, and we're treated with respect by each other, and we aren't treated like children and told what to do by the government or anyone else, we know that we're responsible for our own money and our own time and energy, and we're willing to help our neighbors. You see it all the time. I think that people are inherently good. You have what they call the bystander effect. When there's 100 people standing around and somebody's laying on the ground convulsing, nobody steps up to help. This has been shown over and over because they think somebody else is going to do it. Or somebody's screaming in the street and nobody calls 911 because they think a neighbor will do it. But if you're the only person there, then you're willing to step up to the plate and actually take action. I think we all want to be able to get rid of that in ourselves, that bystander effect, not just to help others, but to help ourselves. To not just watch ourselves struggle and spin around in that eddy with our arms in the air. That sometimes we can throw each other a life preserver. And if we help each other, then we lead better lives, therefore wanting to return the favor to others. And it really is about that connection, but it has to be from the heart. And when those conditions are all met, all the 5 of those struggles, we want to take care of each other. There's so much division among class, and this idea that, if you don't work hard enough, then you won't get ahead. And it's not about how hard you work. Most billionaires, they spend so much time bragging about how much time they work. It's this justification. You'll see it over and over. Oh, well, if you just put in the 20-hour days. It's like, but that's not how humans are meant to live. And it has nothing to do with how much time you put in. It's who else's backbreaking work are you making money off of? And that's where all the resentment comes from. Once we give up on the wealth being the end game, and we see just how sad and pathetic some of these wealthy people are, for example, having to buy Twitter and then continue to leave comments on Twitter about, how great you are, without really even understanding that greatness comes with humility. There's a huge disconnect. Wealth will not buy you happiness. So a final note on this is all 5 of these things are things that people will try to sell you on. Mental aspect, yep, there's a course for that. There's a drug for that. You can take SSRIs, you can take anxiolytics, you can take antidepressants, you can take a whole plethora, a cornucopia of different pills that will claim to help you, many of which they don't even know the mechanism of action, other than it slows serotonin reuptake. What are the long-term effects? Who cares? Just feel good now. And that's just the legal pharmaceutical side. Then there are all the illicit drugs. Then there are the people selling you courses and different records and shit to listen to while you're sleeping that are going to help you to align the hemispheres of your brain and align your chakras. You name it. It's all there in the mental aspect. Everyone wants to sell you BetterHelp on their stupid ass, sponsorships on their videos. Look, I've heard too many negative reports of BetterHelp. People not getting calls back when they need. Like, this is a serious issue when you really need mental help. But nobody's going to complain because they're there because they're having issues. And if nobody's there to help them, then, it just builds more resentment from them. So, mental aspect. There's always somebody trying to sell you mental help. The best thing to do is talk to a friend. Physical, this is well known. There are a million exercise courses, a million diets that you can buy. Another one is, Hello Fresh. We could probably name a sponsorship from each one of these that YouTubers use. The whole idea is, if you eat this, you'll be healthier. You shouldn't eat this or you'll be unhealthy. And people get so conflicted. Follow your body. Follow what feels right to eat and what your body reacts well to. We all have different tolerances for different foods. If you like to drink milk, drink milk. If you don't. People are so tied up in what they should and shouldn't eat. I think that causes a major problem. But the bigger issue is that somebody's always trying to sell you a very expensive meal course that is not catered to your specific body. Or maybe some scam of somebody trying to assemble nutrients in your body, like this Tom Palladino guy that I've been watching on YouTube for years. He's just scalar energy scams. I mean, we've seen all the scammers out there trying to tell you what you should and shouldn't eat. The next one is spiritual. I don't even need to say anything about this. There are charlatans that will sell you wands and special, pamphlets and chants, and all you've got to do is just donate to their cause, and you'll be able to be on a mailing list so they can mail you prayers. I remember getting these things in the mail when I was like in my 20s about, if you send us a penny, we'll send you back $1. And the whole idea is seed money, and it all goes to the church. I did my this was before the internet, but I sent them back a penny, and they sent me $1, and I kept the $1. I knew where this is going. So I'm ahead at least on that one. But there are scammers that are convincing you, if you just give us money, you'll be in heaven. And that is completely unacceptable to me. Financial advice, the last two, financial and social. There's always somebody to tell you how to make friends, or who you should have as a friend, or what's important socially. Don't even need to cover that one, but the financial aspect, oh my God. I somehow got subscribed to some Anthony Pompaneo something, and he does like these YouTube videos. I don't watch them, but I see the thumbnails, and it's like, Bitcoin this week. The U.S. government loves Bitcoin, or we're going to change to Bitcoin. Here's one of these guys who's invested fucking tons of money and time and built his channel around Bitcoin, so that's all he talks about. I don't have a problem with Bitcoin itself or blockchain technology. I have a problem with the manipulation and the volatility of such a currency at this point in time. And if you even dare bring that up, there are people that are such Bitcoin fans, they're almost religious about it. And all I'm going to say here is, I don't take financial advice from people when they tell you you're going to get rich quick. It's not natural. It's not how the natural system works in the world. Yes, you can get rich quick, but you could also lose it all. I call it gambling. Putting a certain amount of money down for a CD or an investment, whatever it may be, is fine. You get a certain return because somebody's using your money. But these days, with the volatility of the market, and believe me, I'm no fan of the US dollar, but it doesn't mean that I trust Dogecoin anymore. So anyway, I hope I've covered it all. I think I have. This turned into a longer video than I intended. But, you know, I wanted to cover those 5 points. Feel free to add yours. Thanks for listening. Leave a comment, please. Hit the thumbs up, I guess, because it helps. And if you want to donate to the channel, you can go to Patreon. There are some extras on there, but I haven't been on there in a bit. And mostly I just upload thoughts when I have them. You know, I'm not very big on the social media scene. I was thinking about this. Is YouTube social media? Well, yeah, of course it is. It's media you use socially. But God, it's changed over the years. Become more commercialized, and I guess that builds a little bitterness because, like I said, I've seen people selling all 5 of these, you know, things: mental, physical, spiritual, financial, and social. Everybody wants to sell you something that's going to improve your state of well-being, but we just got to be smart enough to look through it and ask ourselves what we really need and how to get there through close community, friendships, and just education about the topics that we want to know. Don't know what else to say. Be well, my friends. Peace out. I'll talk to you next time. A beautiful day.